Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited. This week we have got the lovely Anna with us, and I'm literally so excited to jump into the story. We had a little pre-chat, and I've been dying to record this episode for so long. So, Anna, do you want to just let everyone know who you are, where you are in the world, and then we'll jump in?
Absolutely. Hi, Jackie. So lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. So I am Anna, Anna May, and I live in beautiful Wiltshire in the UK.
Amazing, amazing. So as always, we always start these podcasts right at the beginning of the journey and getting you to just share with people what was the start of your healing journey. So what was going on for you? What made you kind of get to that point of being like, life can't go on like this? Um, tell everyone that starting point.
Okay, so basically, I had suffered chronic pain since the age of about 17. It started off with lower back pain. And then as I got older and older and then had my children, it just sort of started intensifying. And then when I got into my, I would say late 20s, 30s, it then transcended into headaches and migraines and more back pain, a lot of neck pain. And it just became a real way of life that I just managed daily pain. And anybody out there that suffers from daily chronic pain will know how debilitating and how draining that is to be living with daily pain. So my actual sort of healing journey started a long time ago because I'm really open-minded and optimistic, always had a smile on my face despite the pain. And I really wanted to find out what was going on within my body and what was causing the pain. So even when back from when I was about sort of when the pain actually first started, I did start going to see an osteopath. And then as I got later on into my journey, at that point it was really manageable. So things like going to the osteopath just kept on top of it. And then as I got later on in life, I found that that wasn't enough. Going to the osteopath once every couple of weeks, not only was that really expensive to continue that, but also it wasn't enough. It wasn't getting rid of the pain. It felt like putting a plaster on it, that it was enabling me to get through the next week, but it wasn't fixing anything. So I then went down this route of thinking, right, okay, I'm really open-minded. I will literally try anything. And I tried everything. I tried reflexology, I tried Chinese acupuncture, I tried kinesiology, cranial osteopathy, like every physical treatment that I could think of, I gave it a go. And what we found would happen was that I would go for a couple of treatments. I'd start to feel really good and the pain would start to lessen. And I'd come home and say to my husband, I'm so excited. I think this is the thing that's going to cure me. And then after a few sessions, we'd hit a brick wall. We would hit a brick wall every single time. And I'd be really upset because the thing that I thought was going to fix me evidently wasn't going to. And I just had endless practitioners saying to me, I don't know what's wrong. You shouldn't be in this much pain, and I should have been able to fix you. So obviously that was upsetting because I was thinking, well, if professionals don't really know what's wrong with me, how am I ever going to find out what's wrong with me? And this continued for many years, and it came to a real head, which is when my true healing journey started. It came to a real head because I had kind of the final end of that part of that journey was that I'd had an MRI scan, been referred for an MRI scan because nobody else knew what was wrong with me. And I went and had the scan, came and sat with the surgeon, and he basically looked at it so dismissively and said to me, "There's nothing wrong with you." And I walked out of the hospital in floods of tears. I had immense gratitude that I was okay and there was nothing serious. Of course I did. But I had this real unanswered question of like, so what is wrong with me? Because if a surgeon's now sitting in front of me saying there's nothing wrong with me, I felt like I was going insane because I just felt like nobody is listening to me. I'm in intense pain every day. Nobody knows what's wrong with me. And now here's a surgeon sitting there going, "You're a bit crazy. There's nothing wrong with you, love." So I then, that was kind of just before lockdown, actually. And lockdown was just a changing point for me because I remember lying in bed. I think I really truly believe that with so much in life, particularly healing, you have to almost hit the depths of despair to be like a phoenix and rise again. And that's what it was for me. I remember in lockdown, it was evening and I was lying on our bed with the most horrific migraine, just sobbing, like gut-wrenching sobs, thinking, how do I cope? Because nobody else knows what's wrong with me. So how am I ever going to get better if nobody else knows? And my husband and my two teenage boys were sobbing as well, hugging me. And I felt so low that I just thought, I've got to take control of this myself. I've got to change my route. I've got to look at this from a different angle because I really think what happens is that we get so kind of overwhelmed with things, don't we? And we get so in it that it's difficult to almost have a bird's eye view of it sometimes, which is, I think, what we need. So I remember lying there, bawling my eyes out, thinking, I've got to take a step back from this. I've got to take a breath and I've got to think about other angles. And that's what I did. So I woke up the next morning feeling very fragile, but feeling this almost like renewed sense of purpose, thinking, right, I've got this now. I'm going to take control of this. And that's when my sort of true path to healing started then, which has just been amazing.
I love that. Like it's so incredible because I've spoken to so many people, and myself included, had that chronic pain, nobody knows what's causing it,
Mm.
um, journey with the NHS,
Yeah,
in the UK.
yeah,
And I can completely relate to that. Like, I had blood tests and scans and all of these various things, and that sheer gratitude that nothing is wrong,
yeah,
but also that complete confusion of like, how
yeah,
can nothing be wrong? How, like,
yeah,
this doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah,
something has to be wrong because
yeah,
my physical body is telling me that something's wrong. Like,
yeah,
my physical body is telling me that something's not okay.
yeah,
And so then you kind of change that angle.
yeah.
And what did you then have to start embracing and learning about yourself and like coming to terms with in order to continue on that healing journey?
Yeah, so the next step really was that I actually got the doctor diagnosed me with fibromyalgia, which at that point in time I took as a diagnosis because I think I was so desperate to cling on to something that I thought, okay, I'm okay with that because if that's what it is, at least I can do research and I can find the best ways to manage it. And put me on really strong medication, which actually it lessened the pain. So, in some respects, I am grateful for that because what it did do, it lessened the intensity so that it gave me a little bit more clarity because I was in such a fog before. I was literally waking up every day with a migraine. Like, I could visualize just this black, rainy cloud over my head every day. Like, it was awful. And so, whilst I didn't want to go on the medication, it did just give me that kind of like sense of a little bit taking the edge off so that I could go, right, okay, now I've got enough strength and I feel okay enough to kind of start off on this new journey. But
Mm.
the interesting thing was when I then started researching fibromyalgia and looking into it and joining support groups and things, instantly I went, that's not me. I just don't feel like that's me. And I'm a really positive person. I've always believed in the law of attraction and manifestation and always viewed things with a really sunny outlook. And I just felt like that doesn't feel like where I am. But one of the first things I did, I really looked at my mindset and I looked at the fact that whilst I knew that thoughts become things and that affirming things, especially around pain and things like that, would make it worse. I think what had happened for me was that because, and you know this, Jackie, being in pain, because when it's so intense and so overwhelming, it isn't easy to just go, I feel amazing when you don't, you know? And I think in my head at that point, what I'd been doing, I hadn't told hardly anyone that was in pain. None of my friends knew. My close family knew that I suffered with migraines and things, but they didn't actually know how bad it was. My husband and my children obviously knew because on a daily basis they were living with it. So there was literally my immediate family that knew how bad it was. Because what I didn't want to do was to keep affirming it to other people. Because I thought if I keep moaning about it, if I keep telling people about it, if people ask me how I am and I go, actually I feel dreadful today, that's me affirming it to the universe that I'm in pain. But the irony is, what I was doing is I was telling myself in my head. So, and it makes me get goosebumps because I kind of almost didn't realize I was doing that, but I was because and I don't blame myself for that because how can you not, you know? But every day I would be in my head going, I'm in agony, my head's killing me, I'm so exhausted. And so that's what I said on a loop. And I really recognized that quite quickly. That's what I'd been doing. So that was one of the first things I did. I thought I need to tell myself a new story. I need to reframe those affirmations I've been saying to myself. So my new one was just that I am healing. And because it felt really unrealistic to say, you know, I am pain free, I feel amazing, because I didn't. And I needed to tell my brain something that it would believe, that it could kind of like latch onto and go, yeah, I'm okay with that. So that felt like a really good one for me to just say, I am healing. So I started saying that to myself every day. I then I had a lovely sliding doors moment where my youngest son Jonah came home from school one day and he said to me, Mum, we were watching a video in our tutor group today, and it was about a lady with chronic pain, and she started wild swimming. And it was amazing for her pain, he said. And I sat there thinking, oh, I need to tell Mum. So I said to him, sweetheart, that's amazing. And at this point, I was not a swimmer. I could swim, but I was not a swimmer. I hated the cold. The thought of going in a lake utterly terrified me. But it was one of those sliding doors moments. And I thought, well, if that works for her, why would that not work for me? And I thought, I've tried everything else. I've got to be kind of like led with intuitiveness. And if he's watched that video and he's shown me that, that's a sign that that's maybe a path I need to take. So I literally went online, watched this video with him, went online, ordered a wetsuit. I mean, it was so spontaneous. Messaged my friend who I knew did wild swimming and said to her, before I can talk myself out of this, we're going wild swimming next week. And she was like, 100% we're in, let's go. Anyway, we went wild swimming. The moment I stepped into that water, I thought, this is it. This is my healing place. And the feeling of stepping into that cold water, and it was literally like I could feel my muscles just relax. And I absolutely adored it. And what was really interesting was that I went a couple of times with her, and then I said to her, I hope you don't mind, but I need to go alone. I need to be there by myself because whilst it's lovely swimming along chatting, that's not what I need. I need to be here by myself and be able to be free and talk, you know, and not be talking. So I started going, and I've realized I've got a really addictive personality, and I just threw everything into it, and I utterly became obsessed with it. And I would go wild swimming every day. But what I did, which was really powerful, and I think this is really twofold with the healing with wild swimming, is that it was not only the physical benefits of it and being in the water and my muscles relaxing and the calmness and the serenity of it, it was utterly magical. Some days I would feel like I was literally having like a spiritual awakening because I'd be swimming and swans would be flying over my head and the sun would be coming up and dragonflies would be swimming past me. It was just absolutely like euphoric feeling. But what I did do every single day when I swam in the water is that I would just affirm constantly for an hour. I would swim for an hour every day and I would be saying, I am strong, I am healing, I am courageous, I am brave, over and over and over and over and over again. And it was just insane because my body then started to believe it. And, I started feeling so much physically, so much stronger. And I think what had happened for so long, because I was really sporty and fit when I was at school, and then when I got into this kind of being in pain all the time, it was like my body, it was like my brain kept saying to me, you can't do that because that's going to
Mm.
hurt. So whilst I still walked a lot and I was active, I always had that little voice in my head going, no, that's really going to hurt. You can't go to the gym. That will really hurt you. You can't do that. That will hurt. You can't go for a run because that's going to really hurt your back. So I'd got really locked in that belief and that story. So that really helped me with wild swimming because it was really gentle exercise. It really built up my strength and it really helped with my mindset. So that for me was like that number one thing that set me off on that path of going, okay, this is really starting to help now.
Mm.
So that was the first place really for me was the swimming was amazing.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. There's just so many, like there's so many amazing things in what you've just said, but I think the biggest thing is this idea of like affirmations are so powerful, but we also can't use them to bypass where we are.
Yeah,
So that thing of saying, going from being in pain to suddenly being like, I feel amazing, life is a great, like I
yeah.
have no pain. Like you just can't do that. Your brain won't let you. And
No.
actually you'll just be putting more resistance in place rather than, and I love the affirmations that you were using. I am healing, I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm
Yeah,
courageous. Like those are such good affirmations for people who are in that space
yeah,
of healing, of trying to move through
yeah,
that, pain barrier, or even if it's a like not a physical pain barrier, but like a mental pain barrier as well. I think both of those have their place where you can use those affirmations. And I guess like for me, the kind of question around like where did the pain come from? Like you went wild swimming, you went on
yeah.
this healing journey. Did you start to pinpoint where the pain came from?
Yeah, so that was kind of the next thing. So the wild swimming really helped with the pain, but it didn't get rid of the pain. And so what again, another sliding doors, the universe guiding me. One of my friends at the time was a health and nutrition coach, really good friend, and he was offering free consultation sessions. And I don't know what led me to do it because I felt like it sounds ironic, but I was like, whilst I am in intense pain, I am a healthy person. I was like, I don't drink loads, I don't smoke, I eat really well. So it was, I love it because it's one of those things that he was who I needed at that point. And but even in my head, I was going, but I don't know why I need a nutrition coach. And so what was really interesting was that I started coaching with him, having sessions with him, and very quickly it had nothing to do with nutrition. I just started opening up with him. I felt really safe with him. We've got the same sense of humor. So we would literally spend sessions roaring with laughter or me sobbing. It was so healing. It was amazing. And he really started unlocking things for me. He started helping me see that I had really low self-worth, understandably, because I'd been in so much pain. So I just felt so low about myself. And the hardest thing for me was that I'd put on a front for so long. So I'd been wearing a mask for so long. So everybody else saw me as Anna, who's bright and vibrant, and she's on stage and she's doing this and she's doing this, and she's always happy and she's always positive, which is how everybody else saw me, but it wasn't how I felt myself. So there was a real disconnect between who I actually was and how people saw me. I felt like I had this facade and this mask that I was wearing constantly, which was absolutely exhausting. So he helped me sort of start to remove that mask. And he also, I will be forever grateful to him because he truly taught me how to have self-worth, how to look after myself, how to heal, how to love myself first. And at that point, then I really realized that I needed to make myself a priority, because previously I'd always felt like that was really selfish. I was a mum, I was a leader in my business, I was a friend, a sister, all of these things that I had to be. And I always felt, as most mums do, that I had to be bottom of the pile. So he said to me, for you to be well, you have to prioritize you. So that's what I did. I sat down my husband and my two boys and I said, look, this is what I need to do. I need to invest in myself. I need to take a bit of a step back from my business. I need to make my healing a priority. And of course, they were fully on board with that, because my husband wanted his wife back, and my kids wanted a good mum that wasn't in pain every day. So that unlocked the next part for me, where then I went on this journey of doing the wild swimming, but also doing all the things that made me feel good. And one day I was listening to an audio by Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, who I adore. And
Mm.
she said this one line that will stay with me forever. It's my mantra. She said, our only job is to feel good. And even now it gives me goosebumps. I say it every day, and I thought, that's it. This is really simple. I need to let go, and I just need to find things that make me feel good. So I was like, right, wild swimming makes me feel amazing. So I need to keep doing that. And then I was like, what else makes me feel really good? One of the things that I realized was that I'm really creative. I've got a degree in illustration. Never followed really. I had a couple of businesses to do with that, but had put a lot of my creativity down since having the kids. So I thought, being creative is actually really healing. So I need to tap back into that. So I did. I tapped back into the creative part of me. That made me feel much better, because I felt like I was coming alive again, and that was really healing in itself. I was like, right, I love walking, I love meditation, I love having a bath. So every day I would soak in the bath. I didn't care if it was a Tuesday and it was 1 o'clock. I just thought, if I'm going to embrace this, I've got to embrace it guilt-free, because it's not going to work if I'm having a bath on a Tuesday, but I'm feeling really guilty that I should be doing the washing up. I just thought, I've got to let go of that. I've got to give into this and surrender, and know that actually none of this is coming from a selfish place, because this is coming from a place that I'm a pivotal person in our family. The family doesn't run if I'm really in pain. So if I can invest in myself, if I can start doing all these things that make me feel really good, and I start to feel better, then my family will be happier, my friends will be happier. So that was the next step. I then started just doing all the things that made me feel good, and I did it without guilt. And that was the next step, really, was embracing stuff that just brought me joy. And I really embraced it. I mean, I would walk down the street, and one of the things I've always loved since a little girl is like the smell of roses. Rose is just my absolute favorite smell. And I would just stop and just like literally smell the roses. And if people walk past, I could see them looking at me like, what's that crazy woman doing? I just didn't care, because I thought, that's so tiny, but that makes me feel so good. That scent, and that natural smell. And I would be out in walking in a field, and I would close my eyes in the sun and just stand there and like take it all in. And I didn't care. I thought, I don't care what people think of me. I'm just going all in. I was like literally on this like mission of joy of finding things that made me feel better. So that then was the next step, was doing all of that.
My gosh. I think like it's such a incredible lesson for people to learn, in this idea, especially women, that it's not selfish to look after ourselves. Like we have to look after ourselves in order to give the best to other people.
Yeah,
So there's definitely that thing. But I think massively this idea that like investing in your own joy, investing in things that make you feel good is
yeah,
always going to be the quickest way to get what you desire. And
yeah,
I think a lot of people struggle with this, and I know when I was in a lot of pain, I kind of struggled with this as well,
Mm.
in that same mindset that you were saying of like, oh, but if I do that, it's gonna hurt.
Mhm.
Or, I would like to do that, but I might not be fit enough, or I might not have it, I might end up in pain, or something might go wrong, or
Yeah,
and like my pain it wasn't constant by any means, but it was hormonal related and period related, and it would come out of nowhere so fast. And
yeah,
I would think to myself, like, I don't want to be out doing a hike halfway up a mountain and then
yeah,
suddenly be
yeah,
incapacitated and not be able to like look after myself or do what or get back down or like live life. Like, and it was like that really like incapacitating, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do these things. But at the same time, just like you're saying, those things are the things that make you better.
yeah.
Like those
100%.
things, and like they don't have to be obviously going and hiking up a mountain by all means, or wild swimming, or like it has to be what the person who's in the situation feels like they need. And
Yeah,
like I massively relate with, like, I will, even on a super busy day, I will take myself out onto my deck and just like stand in the sun and
yeah,
just be like, just like soak it in and be like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, I love how this makes me feel.
yeah,
And I think like that is like such a key piece of the puzzle that I think people miss out. That it's not
yeah,
just about, oh yeah, I've ticked off these things that people say should make me feel good.
yeah,
It's like, how do you actually feel good? Like there's this
yeah,
idea, and I was chatting to somebody about this the other day, about like having like a really hot like bubble bath as being like this indulgent luxury. And she was saying like she always gets into a bath with this idea of like, oh, this is going to be so lovely, and then she hates it. She
no,
gets
it's,
hot really
yeah,
quickly, and she doesn't like just sitting around. She's like, I just don't like it. And I was like, so stop doing it.
yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
don't carry on doing a thing. I was like, do you prefer a shower? And she's like, oh yeah, I love standing in the shower. And I was like, so do that. Like,
Yeah, so
do
true.
that. Like, so many people are stuck in this idea of what the media tells us healing and self-care should
Yeah,
look like,
yeah,
whereas actually it can be something so different,
yeah,
as long as it's the thing that you need, like the right thing for you. I think that that's such
absolutely.
an important message.
Absolutely. And I think that can change as well, can't it? You know, it's like you said earlier, it's what you need at that time. Like jumping ahead a little bit, but this is an example of that. Now I go swimming in our local swimming pool pretty much every day, and I don't go wild swimming as much. And I love wild swimming, and part of that is practicality wise because we've moved and we're much further away now. So on a practical level, the swimming pool's 2 minutes walk away. But what I've really realized is that I love being in the water. I love being free. I love that motion and the slowness of it and the strength it gives you and being able to affirm. And recently, I had a real light bulb moment of it's okay that I don't go wild swimming every day now and I swim in a leisure centre because that's what I needed then. I'm a much stronger person now, so this suits me now. And that was a really nice feeling because I think that changed. What I needed at that point was that. And actually now I love going. I'm going next week with some friends, but I don't need it like I did. So I think it's that exactly like you say, it's finding what you need at that point and realizing what really makes you feel good. And like the roses thing is a really good example, isn't it? Because it's free, doesn't cost anything. It's the tiniest little thing, but it makes you feel really good. It's all those little things, I think. And I think what happens with people, because I know this was how I was, that I felt I was like on this treadmill of life in pain, exhausted, trying to put on a positive front constantly. And I literally felt like I was running on this treadmill and somebody pressed like the highest speed. And I was like, I can't get off. And all I wanted to do was like launch myself off this imaginary treadmill and just lie on the floor and cry. I was like, I can't keep going. And I see it now like I literally jumped off that treadmill, and that's when my life changed. When I changed again that story that we are fed, that to be successful you have to be busy. And I know 100% now in my life I am way more successful than I've ever been, and I am so much more relaxed than I've ever been. I'm horizontal now, and all the good starts coming to me. So but that's what we're led to believe, isn't it, is that we shouldn't really make that much time for ourselves, and we should just be busy and doing things and working hard, and hard work equals success. And it's a story that needs to be changed, because it's just not true.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And we're doing the work to change it. Like this is what we're doing. We're
Absolutely.
doing the work because
Absolutely.
I completely agree with you. We were chatting about this actually in the summit that I ran last week. We had a whole bunch of new women who were starting their businesses, and so many of them were saying they keep hearing the story of success, and it's got to be 10-figure months and 6-figure years. And I was joking and saying I've just got an email from somebody who's teaching their 8-figure formula, and I was
Wow.
like, it just makes me tired now. I
Yeah.
look at it and I'm like, that's not what success means to me. It's not
Yeah.
how I want to live my life. Like, I don't need 10K months to live the most abundant life that I want to live.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, I don't even need 5K months to live the
Yeah.
life that I want
Yeah.
to live. Like, we've gotten ourselves into such a good position. And
Yeah.
I think that there's this constant feed from, I mean, marketing and
Yeah.
media, because if they're not creating a need for products, then businesses aren't making money. So of
Yeah.
course there's that constant churn of like, oh, well, if you want to be really healthy, you've got to have this shake and this,
Yeah.
supplement. And if you want to be really like well looked after, you've got to go to the spa and,
Yeah.
get your nails done at this place. And like there's so much that's fed into this idea of like you can only be well if you have money.
Yeah.
And it's the complete opposite. Like I
Yeah.
find all of my wellness happens going for a run in the mountains, you know
Yeah.
going to the beach and going and walking the dogs, like
Yeah.
standing out on my deck in the sun and just like
Yeah.
soaking in the moment. Like so much of it happens in so many other places. And actually,
Yeah.
I always like to ask, like, what do you think the biggest outlook change was in your life? Do you think that that was it, or do you think it was something else as you went on this journey?
I think that was a really big one. That was a really big kind of light bulb of, wow, actually, if I feel better, that's the main thing. So I would remind myself of that daily. I'd be like, because obviously the guilt did come up sometimes, that I'd think, I do feel a bit guilty actually that people are working and I'm maybe just chilling out. But then I'd remind myself and think, but why are you doing this? And it's making you feel good. And then if you can and what I would do every day is I'd visualize myself in gym, like I wear gym gear nearly every day. And I've actually just realized this now. This has just literally just come to me. I wear gym gear nearly every day. Some days I don't even go to the gym, but I still wear gym gear because it's that person that I want to be. And when I was in loads of pain, I visualized myself as somebody in gym gear feeling really good and really healthy and well. So that's who emulate to be now. So I'm digressing a bit. So that was one of the things for me, was that like, okay, this is what I need to do in order to do that. But the next bit really, which I think was the most which changed everything for me, which was almost like the next bit, was I the initial coaching I had really helped, really helped. It helped me, as I said, with self-love, self-worth, with being creative. And then I felt like we'd come to a point where I was like, okay, I need to move on now. I felt like I needed to unlock more. But at that point, then I was like, but I don't feel like this is the right space to be doing this. So again, it was like, okay, this is what I needed at this point in my life. And this was amazing, but actually, I need something else now. And meanwhile, what I'd been doing was then I had been coming off my medication very slowly, because when I was doing the wild swimming and all the really good things, the pain started easing a bit. And I was thinking, is the medication now a bit of a placebo, that I'm taking 6 tablets every day? I don't know whether it's the medication making me feel better or if it's me that's making me feel better. And as time went on, I thought, I think it's me. So I started really gradually, like, 1 tablet every 6 months coming off. And I would have a couple of days where the pain would be a bit niggly, but then I'd be like, settle into it. And I'd think, no, I'm going to carry on doing that. So I started doing that. And then one day, again, I can't believe all these sliding doors moments. It's amazing. But one of my friends then, who is a counselor, she was offering on a Facebook post to send the first person that commented, she would send them a copy of her book. So I commented and she was like, Anna, amazing, you're the first person, of course, sent me the book. I read it that night. I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, read the entire book, bawled my eyes out, and I was like, I need to work with her. She's the person. She's been sent to me. There's a reason I got that book. She's the right person for me. So that was the next part of the journey that I went on with her. And that then was a completely different, I almost see it like I had coaching and kind of quite fluffy stuff. And then I had to go, I know there's more in there, and I've got to go deeper, and I've got to go through the dark shit now, basically. I've done the nice stuff, but actually, if I want to properly heal now, I really have to admit that there is stuff going on there. There's a lot of memories from childhood, there's a lot of trauma. So she was the next person that I worked with, and that was just incredible. So I worked with her for about a year. And it was, I loved my therapy sessions. I mean, sometimes I'd show up and think, I feel good this week. I've got nothing to talk about. And then 5 minutes in, I'd be like, oh, but we had a great relationship, and I felt really safe with her. And she again just allowed me on another level just to unlock stuff and start being really honest about the way that I felt. And it covered so much stuff. It covered a lot of childhood trauma. It covered a lot about narcissistic relationships that I'd always attracted throughout my life. And being a real people pleaser, which I think so many people are. All of this creates all that pain because we're being somebody that actually isn't true to us, and all we're doing is spending our entire life trying to make other people happy rather than actually making ourselves happy. So she hugely helped me with that. I think that was like the real game changer for me, was because we then accessed it on another level. And that was the hardest bit for me, because there were some days and I thought, I don't want to do this. I just want to shut this down now. Like, because I know this stuff there that I need to work through. But what she really taught me was that we've all got darkness within us, haven't we? We've all had stuff that has happened to every single person, and that might be something, it might be a huge trauma, it might just be a nasty comment that somebody said to you at school, but we've all got stuff that we hold on to that causes pain. And she just helped me see that, I'm a real visual person, and I like to imagine that, like, we've got these dark shadows within us, but if you can be brave enough to hold that torch and shine it on those areas, then you will come through it and you will heal. And that changed everything for me, because it gave me huge self-awareness. And I really think that's what so much of therapy is about having self-awareness and of realizing why you are struggling with things, realizing what's been holding you back, realizing the way you behave you do. And it takes a long time, doesn't it? But I think once you know that, it doesn't mean then that you're forever happy and positive and healed, but it does mean that you can see things so much quicker. So that now when something happens, the old me would have maybe had a stressful conversation, or somebody would have said something to me. The old me would have triggered a migraine instantly, like insane, instant pain. Now, on the rare occasions that something does cause me pain, I go, okay, I'm going to sit with this for a minute. And even my husband now goes, this is why it is. And I go, yeah, it is, isn't it? So I can work through it really quickly now, and I can talk myself through it. I can say to myself, you're safe, you're calm, you don't need to feel like this, you're okay. It's another sign. That's what I tell myself all the time, which I think is a really useful thing if you are going through healing, is that it's not a linear journey, and things crop up where you think you have healed, and then the universe will drop a situation on you and you'll be like, whoa. But I really believe that when that happens, it's the universe saying you haven't quite healed in that area. There's a little bit more work to do. And that always really helps me, because it helps me see that, yeah, I just need to keep shining that torch on that area, working through it a little bit more. And it's all for a good reason, and it's for us. And I love signs, I see things as signs all the time. So if something literally the other day something happened, and I got this real like annoyance straight away, and I just went, it's all good, it's a sign, it's the universe saying you're all right, you're okay, you're on track. It's almost like I see like things are presented to me, so I can go, that's come up, but rather than get really stressed or anxious or in pain, I go, that's okay, I'm going to let it go. So I see it almost like little challenges, if that makes sense. That it's going, here you go. How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to deal with that? Are you properly healed yet? How are you going to deal with that? And the more you work you do, the more you go, I've got this actually. I've got this. I can do this because I know I've got the tools now. That's how I see it. Like I've got a rucksack and I've got all the tools to know how to navigate situations. So yeah, that was a very long answer.
It was perfect, absolutely perfect. But I think, like, again, it's so important for people to understand this process and understand that, like, and I went on a very similar journey actually, in that sense of it started with that self-love, like realizing my own worth, realizing I'm allowed to rest, like realizing that I don't have to just like chuck myself self through burnout cycle after burnout cycle. That was like the start of my journey. And then for the last 2 years, I've been doing that much deeper somatic
Yeah,
nervous system healing,
yeah,
and that exact thing of like you go in feeling like there's nothing to talk about, and the next thing you're sobbing your heart out and you're
yeah,
just like there's so much to unpack. And I think
yeah,
it's really important for people to understand that healing isn't just about that like self-care and just making yourself feel good, because you can only plaster over the stuff
absolutely.
that your nervous system remembers for so
Yeah,
long
yeah.
before it will come out. And I think, like, I definitely see this as well in that same sense. But that nervous system, like storing energy as pain, and
Mm.
that psychosomatic connection of your
Yeah,
body telling yourself that you're in pain when there's no actual physical reason
yeah,
other than the stored energy.
yeah,
It's like it's such a hard thing for people to understand, but for people who are in it, it's also a really hard thing for a lot of people to accept that
yes,
their pain
absolutely.
is not actually pain in the physical
Yeah,
sense. It's
yeah,
actually their body holding that pain. And if they work through that stuff, they
yeah,
will be able to alleviate a lot of that pain. And I think like
absolutely.
that's a massive thing. So like
Yeah.
how did you navigate that process?
Yeah, that was a hard one actually, because I remember having that conversation thinking, well, obviously everyone thinks I'm mad then because, it's not real pain, but and it is. It's really challenging. But I think the answer to that is, I guess the more work I did, the more I realized that to be true, because I realized then when I started telling myself a new story and I started being really kind to my body, and that's one of the things I learned as well through therapy, was rather than, along with the affirmations, just being really kind to my body and respecting my body, rather than, I think before I felt so frustrated with my body because I'd be saying things to myself like, well, I'm really fit and I'm really healthy, so why am I in pain? Like almost blaming my body. And then so I started being kind to my physical body. And so I think the more that I went down that journey, and then I started, as I said, coming off the painkillers. I then thought, yeah, this is true. This is literally like the way that I saw it was that I was like this coiled spring. So when I started the journey, I was this tightly coiled spring that had been like so tight for so much of my life. And it was like the more that I did, it was like it just started loosening like that. And with every session that I spoke, I mean, my shoulders now, I'm like looking here, I'm like, they were up here. The intensity of the pain in my shoulders was horrific. And actually, I've been doing a lot of reading about this recently, about it is almost like the weight of the world on your shoulders. And that's how it felt with me. I felt like I had so much heavy energy in my shoulders. Now, sometimes I'll sit and I'll think, oh, I look so relaxed, and I feel relaxed. And so the more I did that, the more I realized that there was so much in this that, yes, one thing I did do, I was really kind to myself. And I reminded myself all the time that whilst this was pain that was coming from trapped trauma and things like that, it was real physical pain because I could feel it. So whilst it wasn't an actual, cut in my arm or something physical like that, I was like, you need to be really kind to yourself because you are still experiencing this. And I do think a practitioner said that to me, like, you are still physically experiencing this pain. This isn't in your head. This is a real physical pain, but it's caused by other things. So that helped me because I was then kinder to myself and said, okay, I can deal with the fact that this might not be a real physical thing, but I am experiencing physical pain. So that was one of the things to me that I think helped with that.
I
The
think
other thing,
a lot of people have that really negative connotation to psychosomatic,
yeah,
like the word
yeah,
psychosomatic,
yeah,
because
yeah,
they think that people are saying to them, we don't
mm,
believe you.
yeah,
But actually, psychosomatic pain is exactly like you just described it. It is
mm,
real physical pain, but it is not caused by a physical symptom. It's caused
yes,
by a brain wiring system
yeah,
rather than, as you said, like a cut on your arm or
yeah,
a scrape on your knee. Like it's not a
yeah,
physical thing on your body,
yeah,
but it doesn't make the pain any less real.
yeah.
And it doesn't make the process of dealing with the pain any more easy.
No, not at
It's
all.
just a different thing. And I think a lot of people try and go down that route of dealing with psychosomatic pain in the same way they would physical pain, in the
Yeah,
sense of, oh, well, if I just rest my body and, don't move too much, the pain will go away. But actually, because it's psychosomatic and because it's a nervous
listen,
system, like you have to do the nervous system work.
yeah,
Otherwise, the pain doesn't go
yeah.
away. Like we both are living examples of that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And one of the big things that changed things for me as well was I realized quite quickly, and I think that was working through with the therapy and relationships and people with narcissistic traits. I then thought, right, I see that as a toxin. So toxic relationships in my life are it felt like it was literally poison in my body. And I knew that to be true because, as I said, if somebody with those traits said something to me, it would cause physical pain. So I was like, therefore, that is a toxin. That relationship is toxic and it is physically toxic in my life. So I did a huge amount of work around toxic relationships. I really learned, and I'm still working on it because it's an ongoing thing, but I mean, I feel like I'm a bit of a badass now at setting boundaries and just having a much smaller circle with people that don't make me feel like that. And because I've done the inner work and I know that I'm worthy and I know that I don't deserve to have people in my life that make me feel physically poorly anymore. So I did an awful lot of work around that. And I then stopped drinking as well. So I've been alcohol free for nearly a year. Because again, for me, and I know it's not for everybody, but for me, it wasn't because I didn't like drinking. I loved drinking. But I saw it as another toxin and I thought I've got to remove toxins from my life. And that has been a complete game changer for me. And what's been interesting is when I gave up, a few people said to me, "Oh, I didn't know you had a problem with alcohol, like I was a raging alcoholic." And which is nice. And I said, well, initially I was a little bit defensive and I was like, well, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I didn't actually drink that much. But then I went, but actually maybe I did because what I was doing is when I had a headache, I would have a drink
Mm.
because for just a few minutes, that feeling when you have a glass of wine, your shoulders go, ah, like it gave me that relief. So I would have a glass of wine because I'd feel like if it gives me relief for 5 minutes, I'm going to take that because nothing else has given me relief. So I would do that, but then that would then set off this catastrophic event of then giving me a migraine the next day. It was the worst thing for me, but it took me a long time to see that. So that has been a massive part of my journey, has been being alcohol free. And now the energy I've got, I mean, migraines, I've probably had one or two migraines in the last year, and I was getting them every day. And I do believe that drinking really, really didn't help. It's just for me, it's been another part of that jigsaw puzzle, really, that's gone. I just want, I'm 48 and I'm like, I just want to be the very best version of me. Therefore, and do you know what I see now, Jackie? I see it like for all those years, I felt so dreadful. And I think I deserve to feel really good now. For the next half of my life, I deserve to wake up every day and feel bloody amazing. I deserve that, and I owe myself that. And now I'm like, I honor myself enough to know that that's who I'm going to be, because I want to look after myself. I've spent a majority of my life, 30 years in pain. I'm like, I deserve to feel really bloody good now. But I'm the person in control of that, aren't I? So, I have to make those daily choices. I have to show up every day. I have to not have a glass of wine. I have to go to the gym, go for a swim, go for a long walk. Um, because I want to be the best person I can be.
Oh, I love that so much. I think that the moment that you realize that your life and your healing is your responsibility, everything changes. Like that is the moment. So tell us, because I love finishing on this question, tell us
Yeah.
what your next level of healing is. What is the thing that you're focusing on now?
So my ultimate goal is to be completely pain-free and completely medication-free. So I came off the last year, I came off medication completely. So I went from 6 tablets a day to nothing, which I'm so proud of. I do still take painkillers when I need to. And again, I'm kind to myself about that, because I'm like, I've had 30 years of chronic pain, like with medication and painkillers. Again, to come off that instantly, I'm realistic and I'm okay with that, because I'm like, if I do still get physical pain sometimes, and but what I'm really learning to do is to I talk myself through it. So, as an example, like I was in the gym the other day and I've been good with going on the treadmill and doing gentle exercises. And it's like the rowing machine has been in the corner of the room. And when I was about 20, I used to love being on the rowing machine. But there's been that voice in my head going, that will really hurt you. That will really hurt you. That will really hurt you. And I stood in the gym a couple of weeks ago and I went, it won't. I'm really strong. I'm really brave. And I got on the rowing machine. I did it. And I came out and I was like, I can do this. And I felt amazing, because I felt like I have bloody conquered you. And, and like the past couple of weeks, I started, my kids are helping me now do weight training in their bedroom, like it's hysterical. And the boys are going, come on, mum, you can do harder than that. And I'm like, oh, but I can, and I love it, because I'm going, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm strong, I can do it. So that's my kind of ultimate goal, is to get to a point. That's my major affirmation, is that I am completely pain-free, that, I wake up every day literally feeling incredible. And I know I'm like not far off that, but there's still work to be done around that. And I'm okay with that. And then the other thing really is just to help other people. So I started a few years ago, and when I started really healing, I started doing retreats, really into obviously the wild swimming, ice baths, and cold showers and things like that. So I've done a few retreats. I am hugely into, as I said, the law of attraction and manifestation. So I do a lot of coaching around that and helping other people. That's my ultimate goal, is just because I remember thinking, okay, I'm 48. I am open-minded. I'm positive. I'm optimistic. I spent years searching for answers, and it took me all this time to find out what was wrong. How many people are out there that haven't got the same mindset as me,
Yeah.
that are really struggling? Because if I struggled with a good positive mindset, how on earth are other people feeling that haven't got that? So that's my number one goal, is to help other people. And one of the things that I'm just hugely passionate about is helping people just reframe things, just the way that you see things, the way that you say things, that voice in your head, just mastering it really, and learning to um every time that negative thought or feeling pops up, learning to be kind to yourself and reframe it in a different way, because it's life changing. And I think I had a real, as I think many of us do, I've had many feelings of imposter syndrome, that I'm not a qualified coach, I'm not a this, I'm not a that, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. And then I'm like, no, but I'm worthy, and I've been through this myself. And I am somebody that can stand here today to go, I've gone in a really short period of time to being sobbing on my bed, broken in pain, at absolute depths of despair, to feeling glowing and healthy and fit and able to go to the gym and swim every day. So like, I am testament that the work that I have done works. And I think it's a really powerful place to be, when you can connect with people and they know that you've been there. They know that you've felt like shit. They know that you've been in endless pain. And you're not just someone going, well, yeah, I can kind of empathize with you, you know. And I just think I believe that now. I think that's the biggest thing with me now. I believe that I am worthy and I know that I can help other people. So that's my goal moving forward.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It makes me so happy when women step into their power and realize that actually your lived experience is just as important as any qualification that you could get,
Mm.
and actually being able to help other women, other, men, other people through this
Yeah,
journey. There are so many people who are still stuck in this trauma cycle. There are so many
yeah,
people who need this help.
yeah.
So I'm I'm so glad that we could use this platform to share your story and
Oh,
get
thank
it
you
out
so
into the
much.
world and just like have more people here, because I think especially this like psychosomatic pain situation, not enough
Mm.
people talk about it. Not enough people go through this journey of saying actually it is a real thing, but it's also something that you have to take control of. It's also something
Yeah.
that you have to do something about. And I'm just so, so pleased that we could go through this process. So thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I've really
Oh,
enjoyed our
thank you.
conversation.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me here.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of the Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Diary of Discovery.